Those who would, please join us in the prayer and the pledge.
Pray with me, please. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we indeed thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the many blessings of life. We thank you for the board that takes care of our city to the best of their knowledge and to guide and direct their knowledge. These things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
Approved.
Second. Motion and second.
Mayor, I have one item that's been requested to be added by the city manager and city attorney. It's discuss or take action on the overcharge of facilities taxes. And Mr. Cantrell, I believe, will make the presentation.
That would be under new business, 8J. Is that good? All right. Anything else? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item is citizens' comments. This evening we have Mr. Jeff Mangrum. Welcome. Please approach the podium. You have 3 minutes to share your comments or concerns.
Commissioners, city officials. I just want to let y'all know that we're having a debate for the upcoming election for November the 4th, on Tuesday night, October the 7th. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. will be the board of commissioners candidates for review. From 7 to 8 p.m. will be the mayor's chance to answer questions in front of citizens.
There you go. Can you start over?
Is that better?
That's better.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to have a debate next Tuesday night, October the 7th, at the Fairview High School. It's going to be in the gymnasium. I've asked the principal, and she has enlisted some help from the students and the government teacher at the high school to come up with some questions for our candidates for the upcoming election. From 6 to 7 p.m., we will have the Board of Commissioner candidates questions and debate, and from 7 to 8 we will have the mayor's candidates do the same type of thing, question and answer, and with the debate format. So I would like for all the citizens of Fairview and all the present board commissioners, mayor, city officials, anybody that would like to attend, please come join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Mr. Ron Rowe. Welcome.
Good evening. Last Wednesday, or this past Wednesday, I had the opportunity to attend the economic development seminar that you folks put on, and as a Plan Commission member, I was invited to attend, and we had 2/3 of the Plan Commission there, and I just wanted to compliment the city staff, the city manager, and others that were involved in that, because it was very informative. They had the Tennessee Valley Authority, 2 representatives who talked about economic development, and from the utilities, they had the gas company, and also had the Dixon Water and Sewer. So I just wanted to compliment you that was great, and you just get this feeling like we're moving forward, and this is the place to be. And I was really did not realize the competitiveness out there when businesses and developers and those types of people come to cities, how competitive that is, and how we're moving in that forward direction to be competitive. So I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you. It was a good evening. Thank you for a comment. Next item is awards and recognitions. Would there be any from the board this evening?
None from staff, Mayor.
Item number 5 is public announcements. I do have a request from the fire chief. Chief Cooper?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this year, the firefighters have chipped in and bought a bunch of pink shirts to support breast cancer awareness, which is October. Last year, we sold and made a contribution of several $1,000s to the cause. All the proceeds go to the cause. And we've got them for sale until supplies are exhausted. They're different than they were last year. We had some people say, well, make them different every year. Okay, we did that. And you can buy them out here or at the fire station until we're out of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public announcements this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. The admission testing every Monday and Tuesday from 7:30 till noon. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I think we would want to, I don't know if you were going to announce the Fun Day coming Saturday, Keith, 10 to 4 in the park.
Monday.
What is it called? Fun Day?
Would you announce our exciting events in the park on Saturday as public announcements?
I'm sure you were going to do it later.
Probably had, yeah, you probably had it in your comments, but we'll give
It's
you
fine.
first and last dibs.
Saturday the 4th from 10 to 4, we're doing the Fall Fun Day in the park. Be hay rides, going out to the Dome area again this year. And we have Bowie Jubilee, Saturday the 11th from 2 to 5. Yankee Dixie will be the headliner. And since I'm up here doing this, the Friends of the Nature Park will be collecting worn, torn, or badly soiled American flags during the month of October at the Nature Center. Anyone could drop them off. They will be given to the Boy Scout Troop 297 that will be properly dispose of the flags during a retirement ceremony.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements?
Sorry, one more thing I was going to say. Tomorrow, obviously, is the homecoming game, and the parade will start at 12:50 at the ballpark and go to Westwood, then Fairview Middle, then Fairview Elementary, and then return at the high school. So if you have a chance, you own a business, you can step outdoors, just show the kids we're support, or if you're around, the kids love it, and it's a great time, so.
Well, homecoming in the Hive for the Fairview Yellow Jackets starts at 7 or 7:30?
7.
So show your pride. Any other announcements? If not, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes from September 18th, 2014.
Move approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions, additions, or deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We do not have any old business this evening, so we'll move on to new business. 8A, discuss and or take action on recovery of court cost, fines, and fees. Commissioner Sutton?
This is something that I had discussed with our newly appointed judge, Dryer, and with our city attorney, Ms. Cantrell. That we in the past have not been recovering our court fines and fees that we have bound over to the county, and I asked them to look into it. So, Yana, Larry, you know, take it from here.
Yeah, I think the judge had some information that he wanted to give that he'd been working on, so if he would, he can proceed first.
Judge Dryer? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for inviting me to speak this evening. There are two issues that I believe are certainly ripe for discussion with regards to court costs. As Commissioner Sutton mentioned, the cases that we bind over to the grand jury, those court costs are just lost. They're not being collected by anybody. The other issue, I do not believe, after looking at it, that the court costs that we're assessing accurately reflect the cost per case of operating our court system. And by not properly assessing it, I think they are understated. What we're basically asking taxpayers to do is subsidize the cost of crime, and I don't believe that's correct. Now, again, that's not for me to decide. That's for you all to decide. That's merely my personal opinion. With regard to the cases that are being bound over to the grand jury, From October 1st of 2013 to October 1st of 2014, this court bound over 95 cases to the grand jury. At a minimum, the court costs per case that we should have collected for those are $127. That is exclusive of fines and a lot of other matters. So if you multiply that by 95, a conservative estimate would be that we lost $12,065 in court cost to cases that were bound over to the grand jury, not recovered. I have spoken with Mr. Cantrell. I also have spoken with one member of the county commission about the issue, and they seem to indicate that if the county commission were to act at our request, there could be something worked out where the clerk's office could collect those particular costs. And I think that's fair and just, and there would probably be some sort of nominal clerk's commission for collection of those, but as Commissioner Sutton's very fond of saying, 90% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So I would encourage the board to at least look at that issue and see if there is some way that those particular costs can be collected. Now, as for the court costs in general, I did pull a bill of cost at random from our court with regard to a DUI, a very common charge, and I pulled a bill of costs at random from the General Sessions Court in Franklin. I believe the bill of cost in Franklin was very on the low end. Most of the DUIs I see in Franklin run in the neighborhood of $1,500 when you take into account the fine. This one happened to be $1,282, including the fine of $350, which is the legal minimum. Our court cost bill on the same item, including the $350 fine, was $871.21. Now, I'm not saying that our court costs should be the same as Franklin. What I am saying is that they should accurately reflect our costs. And again, I'm not an auditor. I don't have all the information at the disposal of the board in terms of financial records, but my guess is just based on sheer volume and the fact that we frequently have to transport inmates all the way from the Williamson County Jail to here, I believe our court cost, the actual cost per case, is probably greater than it would be in Franklin. I've talked to Mr. Cantrell about this issue, and he believes that any cost that we can substantiate, we can pass along to the people who commit crimes in this community. And I think that's fair and just. The one particular issue that I know is not being accounted for, when you have inmates in the county jail, they are being transported by, I believe it's 2 police officers. I understand from Commissioner Sutton that the city recently purchased a van, a used van, at the cost of about $10,000.
They're in the process of purchasing.
Okay. Those particular people who are being brought from the jail should be, in my opinion, assessed a transportation cost. And again, it's not my opinion, that's the law, it is the 5 of you. So what I'm respectfully requesting is that that issue be looked at in terms of what it costs the city to transport them back and forth. Now, I understand and am cognizant of the fact that some people are indigent and simply can't afford that. And there are those that would say, well, they shouldn't be committing crimes, and I tend to agree with that. However, I know that it's no one's intent to basically grind poor people into the turf. If they are in fact indigent, they can come to court and they can file a petition under law and ask that those court costs be waived on the basis of indigency. And either myself or whoever happens to be the judge at the time can rule on that issue and decide whether they are in fact indigent or whether they should be responsible for those costs. So those are the 2 issues that I see are costing the city money, in my humble opinion. Number 1, the fact that we're losing court costs on all the cases that are bound over the grand jury. And 2, I believe, after looking at the issue, in my non-expert opinion, I believe that they understate the services and the cost of those services that are actually being provided. And I would encourage some discussion and some action by the board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
City Attorney, everything else?
No, I think not much. I think he covered the subject real well. I would just encourage, when you're looking at the cost, be real sure that those costs that you come up with accurately reflect what it costs to get the person in and have his hearing, because as long as it does, you're in good shape. If somebody ever decides to challenge it and you've got something in there that's not well documented or is grossly over the cost that it actually cost you to conduct the hearing, et cetera, then you're going to have a problem. If we could get the General Sessions clerk in Franklin to collect those, since we have concurrent General Sessions jurisdiction, and probably in a lot of instances don't really know if they pay the fine, et cetera. If they're found, of course, obviously not guilty, then you're not going to have any fine coming to you. But if there is a cost for having a hearing to bind them over, and that we should be able to get in all of them that are bound over, unless, like the judge said, if they come in and file a petition. If they had an indigency hearing already for having an attorney appointed for them, it might be somewhat redundant to have another hearing. That's not my call, that's the judge's call. But if you're losing that much money, and if the fines are, some of them are going to be found guilty, and there's going to be some fines involved, and once those things are assessed, if you don't pay them within a year, the state will revoke your driver's license. You'd be amazed what people will do to keep their driver's license. And we only have criminal cases in our General Sessions Court. They don't have concurrent jurisdiction for civil cases, so you couldn't take the license for that anyway.
Tom, do you have a accounts receivable and cost breakdown or anything that's been looked at in the financial matter of this?
No, no, ma'am. I would have to go with. I would start with Miss Diane Ford, and then I would start with. I'm not sure who does the transportation. I would have to go research. If it's, I don't know if it's every Friday or I would have to research it.
Would it be something that a 30-day window, what would be an accurate time that would allow you to have a research and be able, because I do agree that if we're paying something that should be allocated to the person that's causing, then that's definitely something to be looked at. I do agree. But without any numbers or anything to work with, do you feel like 30 days to bring back some information would be adequate?
I think 30 days would be adequate.
Yeah, if I could make a suggestion that I don't know if we don't need a motion or anything, to have the ad hoc committee activated and let them take a look at this and bring back recommendations with the figures from Tom and the police department back to the board.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
A second. Discussion? Discussion. All those in favor of having the Finance Committee ad hoc be able to have this discussion and work with the CFO? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I apologize, I wanted to clarify when he said ad hoc that he was speaking of the Finance Committee, so I made that in the statement for record. Okay. Moving on, item 8B, discuss and take action on contract for broadening financial transparency with OpenGov. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that has been discussed as we were going through the budget over several months ago, and I've been talking to a lot of citizens and doing my own research on the internet, and I found something that was very interesting, and I actually showed it to Commissioner Basile. I think he took a look at it, and there's over 100 different governments in 20 states in our country that are utilizing this already, and they're using it to access, analyze, and share financial data with the citizens that they represent. And it is compatible with the software that our city currently uses through local government. And it's just something that I think that will ease people's minds on what we're doing. And some people may think we're trying to hide things from them, or we just had this special meeting at 5:30 going over the audit findings, and people were discussing, well, they don't have access to the audit. Well, that's coming and so they told us after the meeting in 7 days that we'll have the final copy and we'll be able to publish that. OpenGov it's an easy-to-use web-based platform, and it empowers city departments and decision makers to see trends, drill down to transaction-level details, and compare actual spending to the budget on the fly from anywhere at any time without any action on the part of the CFO or the finance department. OpenGov enables governments to make available full general ledger line item financial data with city officials and the public alike to improve communication and build trust. OpenGov will also have the capability to add notes on specific line items to explain why they may be over or under budget. I believe that the adoption of OpenGov for the City of Fairview will change for the better how decisions are made regarding expenditures and budgets, and it will quickly become an invaluable tool towards the making of fully informed decisions in fully open and transparent manner. It also provides past years of financial budgets and expenditures, and I would support including the past few years of data into this system so that we can see comparisons of where we are now and where we have been, along with where we are going. Anyone will be able to instantly access financial data online without registering or using a login ID number to see exactly how the money flows in and out of our city. The OpenGov platform brings the data to life in a way that empowers administrators and educates the citizens, whether through the use of easily user customizable graphs and account tracking and specific general ledger expense reviews. OpenGov will surpass capabilities previously available in all sizes of different governments. With current year and historical financial information readily available, government staff will save hundreds of hours in gathering, formatting, and reporting data. The city of Sausalito, California only spends 5 minutes a month to get the wealth of data online through this platform. Our staff will send the data files to OpenGov, and they will not be behind the city's firewall or not have access to any of our restricted information. But what we will do is we will send this to them every month, and it will be available to everyone should we choose to do this. Policymakers and review committees have the information they need to foster insights and improve decisions as well as recommendations. This will go hand in hand with what the Finance Committee is doing on a monthly basis here in our city. Official auditors will use the OpenGov platform to be able to retrieve all the information they need to perform their duties without having to make ongoing requests to the city finance department whatsoever, freeing them up of the burdens and requirements normally associated with such audits. During our 5:30 meeting, we heard from our auditors that Tom, our CFO, was basically taken away from a week of work here, what he should have been doing in his daily functions as the CFO, only answering their questions and getting them the information. All this information will be available to them and to you. In a nutshell, and most importantly, OpenGov offers the most intuitive way to share real-time financial data with our key stakeholders, and that's you, the citizens. The people we see where revenues derive from, how the funds are distributed, and the goods and services provided for the community anytime they wish, down to the first and last penny. OpenGov allows the data to be exported in several different formats and sort however the user chooses. OpenGov currently has been adopted in cities ranging in the size from Los Angeles, California, all the way down the spectrum. However, the adoption of this platform will be the first such adoption in the state of Tennessee. Fairview right now has the opportunity to be the first in our state to offer this to its citizens. Not Franklin, not Brentwood, not Nashville, none of those cities. No other town in Tennessee is discussing what I bring forward tonight for discussion and hopeful approval in this meeting. And so the city of Fairview will always be first and will no doubt be seen as a leader in government financial transparency and reporting. On their website, they have a brief video that we're going to show you this evening. I think they're going to turn it on, and then I'll have some more. Make a motion and then see where we go from there. Maybe we're going to have a video.
We're waiting on ads.
It has sound. I guess I spoke too soon. I thought it was compatible with our system.
Got to take the mute off the sound.
There you go. Mayor, if I can, just take a little time filler there. In the past, what we've had done is we've asked all the businesses, and it may be a little bit late now, to decorate for tomorrow's parade and homecoming, just to show your colors outside your business or whatever the case may be for it. They'll be having, I think the chief of police asking they're restricted down to 30 vehicles going to be in the parade. So if you have a business in town, if you're going to be in town, just show your colors for the homecoming parade tomorrow. And keep in mind, those kids get out there and work hard to get this presented to us each and every year. And this is a tough game this week, too. It's not a gimme for a homecoming game. So get out there and support them. It's supposed to rain in the morning, be clear in the afternoon. I'm going to give you a weather report while Stewart's doing what he's doing. So just get out there and be at the game and enjoy to see everybody. I really enjoyed whenever I get to go to them, especially the home games. We should all try to go when we can. I'll go ahead and say one more thing while we're waiting.
You can do a cheer. I mean, go for it.
No, y'all don't want to hear that one. Just to throw something out to you, this is a kudos goes out to Jeremy Durham. I'll go ahead and say this now while everybody's here and still on there. Jeremy Durham and Diane Ford. We had a problem with getting a OR number from the state of Tennessee so that we could run criminal backgrounds through the court system. The TBI had, my understanding, a problem with the police department sharing that information with the court system after the case had been done with them. It was going to take quite some time to get that settled with the TBI, with the help of Jeremy and through Diane's hard work and diligence. We now have our own, the court has their own ORI number, and it will expedite greatly the time frame that we have in doing these cases, and a lot of work on her behalf. So thanks to Jeremy Durham and Diane. Anybody? Mayor, if I can, request at the end of the meeting, when we get ready for comments, is we give both the candidates that are here tonight a couple of minutes to talk about themselves. I know the other one's not here, but we'll try to catch him when he does show up. We normally do that, so give both of you an opportunity to stand up and state your name and everything. Trying to move. When it comes on, it's gonna bust our ears. I promise.
You definitely don't want to vote on something you're not hearing.
No. They'll get it about the time motion goes.
I apologize for the technical difficulties, and I will make a motion to defer.
Second.
Discussion. In discussion, I do have a few questions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And not that open government is not vital. I do agree, and I do agree with the process, and I did spend time investigating the website as well, and I do see the value of being able to present the material and to have it streamlined. My one question would be, how does that reflect in our budget that we're currently under? What would be the advice from the CFO?
Currently, there's no line item for this expenditure in the budget.
And then my second statement to that, again, not disagreeing that this is not a great avenue and a great focus, and I appreciate you doing the research, but my also statement is, what do we have currently that is free to our access that we are either using somewhat or not using to its potential? And I believe time spent on that, and I know that City Manager Hall has looked into several avenues as we've discussed putting the minutes up, which I know that's been done in some of the past years, and then also presenting to the public through our website the meetings, the calendars, and the things that we've been abreast of for many years, trying to make sure that we have transparency in what's taking place to allow the citizens to participate. And that's ultimately all of our goal, is that the citizens participate and are aware. So I would encourage that in the time that we're deferring, that we look into what is available to us now that we're currently paying for or we currently have access to, such as our websites and our Facebooks and different type of media, that we can utilize and keep this information flowing, such as the audit, getting that out and being able to allow that information. Also at the TVA and the Economic Forum, which was fantastic, they also commented about making your website user-friendly to your business development and the things that we have that we can flaunt, because 24/7, it was pointed out, people are looking at our city. We are dancing and they are seeing, and they are looking at our city 24/7. And to be able to put a finger on something on the website of how to do business, what kind of background, what kind of gallery of photographs of our events that we have, I believe all of that is not being utilized to the utmost, and those things are free, are already things we are being serviced and things that we are paying for. So I would encourage that to be a focus as well. Okay. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item C, discuss and or take action on Bill 2014-25. Ordinance number 847.
Move it.
An ordinance to amend the City of Fairview, Tennessee Municipal Code Title V, Municipal Finance and Taxation, Chapter 6, Adequate Facilities Tax, Section 5-604, Use of Tax. Mr. Cantrell, did you want to comment or highlight purpose and reasoning of this being on our agenda this evening?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Thank you. This ordinance has not been amended for the purpose that we're amending it tonight since it was enacted in 1998. All the ordinance does is it changes the rate of the tax on non-residential buildings from 50 cents per square foot to 75 cents per square foot. It hasn't been properly changed. And I don't think anybody has any doubt that facilities tax, the facilities themselves has increased in value, and the city's expenditure to provide for those has increased since 1998. I also did some checking on what some other cities do on this, and 75 cents is not the highest and it's not the lowest. Also discovered that some people have a different view of facilities tax and impact fees. You start looking down it, and one city has 60 cents, one has 75, and the next one has $1,350 and some cents. And first time you see that, you think, what is this? And it becomes pretty obvious that it's not a facilities tax that they reported, it's the impact fee. Some of them are even road impact fees. So 75 cents is not out of the realm of reason compared to what other people are charging. It's not the highest, it's not the lowest. But I was asked to present this because, by the staff, because they thought that it needed to be raised, and they didn't touch the residential. It stayed as it was.
And could you state, just for the public, where this money comes from, where this tax money comes from?
Yes, it's not really tax money, it's a fee.
Thank you.
But I'll do two things. I'll tell you where it comes from, and I'll tell you the difference in tax and fee. It comes from when a person starts to build a building, they have a flat fee that they pay, which they didn't propose to change. That's $500. And then you take the square footage that's inside the roof.
Is your mic on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
You take the square footage that's inside, enclosed in the roof, and multiply that now by 50 cents most of the time. And I'll explain later why I said most of the time. 75 cents under the new ordinance. And that goes to the city to defray some of the cost of providing what they have to have for that development to work, the police department, fire department, roads, this kind of thing. Now, a lot of them build the roads into the development itself, but they don't, if you've got the nicest development in the state and you've got all your parking lot and the roads going in, and behind it you've got a 10-foot wide road, you don't have much. And that's where it comes from, and that's basically what it's used for. In this instance, as the next ordinance will say, the legislative body has the say over where this goes. It has to go for a public purpose. At one time, some of it went to the police department, some went to water and sewer, which we no longer have. But as it sits right now, these fees go to, they're earmarked by the previous legislative board to pay the debt service on this city hall. And it will stay that way until it's either paid off, or if there's an adjustment in it sufficient that the legislative board thinks they want to split it and do some other public purpose. Until they change public buildings, it would have to be public buildings. Basically, and then the difference between a tax and a fee, and I hear that all the time, to me, comes out of my pocket, so it doesn't really matter to me whether it's a tax or a fee. But the technical difference is this. A fee is an amount of money that is paid for me or an entity to engage in a particular type of behavior that is controlled by the government. In other words, the zoning ordinances and this type of stuff where you can build the commercial developments and where you can't build the commercial developments. That is a fee for me to participate in that particular activity. A tax is a tax that's placed on everybody. So for a purpose, it goes normally in the general fund to finance the necessities of the city, police department, fire department, the staff, upkeep of the buildings, trimming the entrance on the Highway 100 out here. Those are just examples, but that's the basic difference. And the only thing this changes is the fee for commercial.
Thank you. The discussion.
I just had a question. Does this have to do with 8J, or is this a similar, the overcharge 8J? Is this
No, this
related at all?
Not
to-
directly. I mean, indirectly it appears to.
Okay.
But because it should have been raised, that brought it to attention, I guess, that it needed to be, two things, that it hadn't been amended since 1998. The ordinance has, but not relation to the amount of the fee. And the second thing is that what was there was just inadequate.
Okay.
Now, I do remind the board that in compliance with predecessors, the history of this ordinance, and sometimes that's handy, is being carried on between the first reading and the second reading. If the board chooses to pass this, I will, on the second page, insert this ordinance number so that you see that it was originally passed in 98. It was amended by ordinance 505 in 2001 and amended again by this ordinance tonight if you choose to pass it.
And I think that would be future helpful because there was a history of how this took place and why this money was very important for payback on debt and
Right.
being able to make sure that we had checks and balances of when we receive a debt payment, that we have already positioned what is going to pay that
Right.
bill when it comes due. So it's the history of it, I think is very important.
It's good to have that in there. I wish all of them had it. It'd take an enormous amount of time to go back and bring the history up to date, but it's a big help to me when I start looking at this and I say, well, what did it do in ordinance 505?
Right.
And generally, I know Miss Brandy would appreciate it, because if I've got that, I have to call her up and say, can you look at the minutes and tell me when this was amended from the date it was passed?
And wouldn't it be great in the way of being able to search and put in the ordinance and have that right in front of you? So all of that check and balance just makes it easier on everyone, citizens and staff included. Other discussion? Thank you, sir. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item D, discuss and or take action of Bill 2014-26, ordinance number 848.
An ordinance to amend the City of Fairview, Tennessee Municipal Code, Title 5, Municipal Finance and Taxation, Chapter 6, Adequate Facilities Tax, Section 5-602, Tax Established.
Mr. Cantrell, did you have comments on that?
Yes, ma'am. I went back on this ordinance. We could have gotten by without it, but this ordinance needed to be brought up to date with the other one, because the ordinance that designated where the money goes would have taken care of it, but it looks kind of out of place when you look and see when the tax was established in, I think that one was in 1998, yes, July of 98, that it shows residential, is for streets, parks, recreation, fire, police, water, sewer, municipal buildings, and total residential. And that's all are good public purposes. But when they did the other designation, I just wanted to clean this up a little bit. And if you look at, on the second page, on 5602, we amended that to take out everything except municipal land and buildings and non-residential. When we raised that to 75 cents, it had to go up from 50 along with the other one. And it designates it as municipal land and buildings. And the previous board said until further notice, and that's in the municipal code, the municipal land and building that this will go to will be this city hall until it's paid or until the board amends it.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? So did the tax raise on the non-residential or the residential?
I'm sorry, it raised on the non-residential was 75 cents, just like it was in the other one. This was just a housekeeping thing to clean this up to make it match the other one. It did not change on the non-residential.
So it doesn't say commercial, it just says non-residential. I just wanted to be clear. Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to E, discuss and or take action on acceptance of government's highway safety office grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll turn this part of the meeting over to Captain Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. We, for the 8th year in a row, have received grant funding from the Girls Highway Safety Office. for use with a project that we've been working on for impaired driving enforcement. This year's grant will be a total of $45,450. Those funds are 100% funded. There's no matching. This is a reimbursement type grant. We report to them quarterly. They reimburse us at the end of the quarter for whatever we've spent. The breakdown of the grant, the physical grant started October 1st, runs through September 30th, 2015. However, until we get the approval from you guys and sign the contract, we're in a holding pattern. $18,150 of that grant will be used for overtime reimbursement for the officers who participate in this grant. That includes the 19 or 20% of the benefit cost for that officer that the city has to pay. So we're actually recouping not only the salary money, but the benefit part of it too. $27,300 is for equipment. We have budgeted for 3 laptops and 3 arbitrator in-car camera systems to get the 3 vehicles we have left in patrol up to date on their camera systems, go along with what we're already using now. Any questions?
My question would be is, do you have it in your budget?
It was pre-budgeted. I believe Tom can speak more on that than I can, but we did give him a number that was pretty close to that amount. As far as
So
what
there's
we were-
currently in the line item a $45,000 for the reimbursement, or the put forth for the reimbursement. Excellent. Other questions?
Just a real quick question. You mentioned overtime on it. Will that relate back to the comp time that's offered for that?
We're actually, what we've been doing with this grant, we've actually been physically paying that overtime to the officers for these projects that they work, not for any overtime, but just for the grant projects during the saturation patrols.
Basically for the DUI checkpoints and things that we work
Saturation
on?
patrols, checkpoints, any type of activities we do, co-founding with the schools as far as the Prom Promise drinking and driving program there as well. So,
Thank you.
What was the amount last year?
I believe last year was 36,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Is this a pool that you fill out applications and such?
Yes, it
and-
is it's a renewable grant every year through an application process. Federal government through NHTSA supplies the state of Tennessee with a large sum of money. And then individual agencies apply with the Government Highway Safety Office to receive the funding, and then it's awarded by them to the departments.
Okay, great. Other questions?
Mayor, if I might?
Yes, sir.
I have reviewed the grant, and it's no different substantially. I mean, there may be an and where an or was, but there's nothing substantially different in this document than in the ones they've used in the previous years.
Move for approval.
We have a motion?
Second.
Second, discussion? Is any of this addressing underage drinking?
Some of it will be specifically working with the school, with their SRO and certain programs that we do with the Williams County Sheriff's Department. Any of it is related to underage drinking when, we're on our special patrols, and we, of course, we don't necessarily target underage drinking during those patrols, but any impaired driving period, whether it be an adult or a juvenile of any type.
But as far as education or things that this, I knew the DARE program, different things, does this have education pieces to it?
Yes.
Breakdown here.
We have access to free literature that we give out during our public appearances at different the festivals and things like that. We get information as far as child safety, seatbelt usage. We've got access to, yearly access to multiple training opportunities that are free along with this program that include those types of services. The conference that we attended last month as part of the grant, we're being a grantee as well, is a 3-day conference. During that conference, they have about 15 to 20 breakout sessions that are training sessions. This year, one of those sessions that we had an attendee go to was for underage drinking, to try to get some ideas of how to develop some more public relations in that area. So we're moving towards that, and hopefully in the coming year grant, we'll actually have a line item just for that type of program that we're going to try to seek out with the high school, maybe with the drama department. An idea that I've tossed around is maybe putting together some type of programming with the drama department at the high school. So we're going to try to work on that for the next year.
Other questions, discussion?
This is some of the material that y'all pass out during the back-to-school bash and things like that?
This year at the Back to School Bash, we passed out collapsible coolers to all the students. We had Too Cool for Drugs logo printed on them along with the Fairview Police Department and a little area for them to write their names on it so they can kind of personalize it a little bit. That was funded through the drug fund itself this year, which we have a line item in there for that. And just to kind of hold off on we typically have a PR line item with the police department, but to try to help reduce some of the spending so far, we used the drug fund proceeds for that.
Would this be used partially when we do the ID checks? When we go around the different locations, beer sales and things of this nature, and we work with ABC?
Not specifically, and the reason for that is it has to actually apply into the grant.
Okay.
As far as the type of function. Now, I can go back and ask for approval through NHTSA once those have been done, as long as we can notate the hours that were worked and the enforcement type that was done. We can absolutely use the funding for that.
I think that would comply a little bit with what the mayor's asking about as far as underage drinking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item F, discuss and take action on PayPal ACH contract. Mr. Cantrell?
Thank you, Mayor. I will not insult this board's intelligence by speaking much about PayPal, about my knowledge of or lack of knowledge of PayPal, but I'm informed by staff that this would greatly assist the collection of property taxes if they can get this online and on board before the tax season hits. Is the reason it was rushed through. If I'm incorrect in that statement, somebody please correct me. But I reviewed the contract, and when I first received it, like so many of the contracts that you get from out-of-state entities, it had about a page and a half of how we were going to indemnify this if that happened, and indemnify this. And I said, no, we cannot do that because it violates Article 2, Section 29 of the state constitution. It constitutes an illegal waiver of the Tort Claims Liability Act sovereign immunity, and it has a adverse connotation on potentially spending money that hasn't been appropriated, which gets you into problem with a couple of statutes and another constitutional provision. So I voiced my concern, and amazingly, a day later, they come back and stripped all that out of the contract. The only thing they didn't strip out, and I didn't ask them to do that, was that they would apply California law to the contract. That wouldn't do any good. So if we're getting into a fight with them, they want to sue us, they're going to have to come here and let the judge in Tennessee apply California law. And that's always an interesting thing. But as far as the contract, I have no problem with the contract the way it's presented now. If you want an explanation of PayPal, you'll have to ask Ms. Brandy or Tom.
No, my only question would be, what is the cost of the contract to initiate?
There is no initiation cost.
Any administrative costs charged to the?
There would be an additional $30 per month cost. We are initiating. We currently have a PayPal account. We are upgrading our current account, and in an effort to provide more ways of collecting property taxes from the citizens, we will be able to take a credit card at the counter with this account, and that's actually for any fines or fees collected by the city.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Okay, so we already have an account, there's an additional cost, monthly additional cost. Okay, and that's budgeted for, so you have a place?
Yes, ma'am, it's $30 a month. it's in the budget.
So what would that come out of? What line item?
I would have to look on the number, but it would be in the same line item as a PayPal account currently does.
What does the current PayPal account cost?
And all the fees right now are directly applied to the customer or whoever's paying the property tax or whatever. That right now, all we collect is through PayPal is property taxes.
Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item G, discuss and/or take action on school donation. Commissioner Carroll?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring this up for discussion because the last couple of years, we did give donations to the school. I know several people have asked about it. We did not bring up the conversation during the budget talks just because there was definitely concerns with cash flow and how that would, it was never even mentioned, actually. Because we were doing so many cuts that, you know, we never proceeded with that. So anyway, a lot of people have asked questions. I know the mayor has received some emails. So I just wanted to bring it out for discussion. Is this something we are interested in doing, or do we want to go back and say, no, we can't do it this year, and just get the board's perspective? One of the things I would like to suggest, if it is something we would like to proceed with, is maybe doing it after the taxes start coming in to kind of help with the cash flow issues. Any thoughts from the other board members?
I've just got a question. I don't know where I've got this from, but Tom, do you have any input on this as far as waiting until January to implement this right here?
I would recommend,
Because of the current audit and things that we have, we're just trying to balance it.
yes, if January, if you do go forward, and granted, we would have to have a budget amendment, and we would have to allocate those, appropriate those funds, but the cash, in the account, the money is there, and that's what it's supposed to be spent for.
Well, and even another thought is, you know, last year we came up with a calculation of $40, I believe, per student. Nothing says we have to do the same amount. We could, you know, lessen, we could do the same. It's just, I know the schools had lots of uses for it and really appreciated it. So if it is something that we think we can swing as a board, maybe come January, February, then I know that it would really help a lot of the schools out, and they could use it for the kids, and so.
I do agree. 3 of the principals has contacted in just an inquiry, not an expectation, but an inquiry of they're working on their budgets. Not sure their fiscal year, but obviously it's coming up because it's been within the last 30 days. But their inquiry was, can we expect Fairview to participate and cooperate and be able to look forward to some type of revenue? So I believe they're just looking for guidance at this point of, is that something favorable, or is that something that's absolutely known at this point that it's not possible? So if the board's comments, I guess that's kind of where we are now, is
I absolutely believe that the money's there, and that's what it's there for, and it should be used for the children. And we can discuss the breakdown of how much. The cost of living and the cost of doing business has gone up like everything else has, and if our returns, Tom, what was our amount we took from the county, or we got received from the county last year compared to this year? Did it go up or down?
I believe that number is pretty well almost identical. from your.
So whenever we do have the further discussion or what, that we at least keep it the same from what is rather than lowered. If that amount didn't go down, it went up.
I would like to say that the board has committed to the.
Library
To the
fund.
library, up to 91,000 and some change, that is coming out of that fund as well. That did not come out
Right,
previously.
and that's one of the considerations, I think, for January, something like that, so we'll have a little bit more input on where they're gonna start that, and that'll be coming out for whatever budget thing. So I personally am all for it, and I just think my motion would be to them, yes, we are, and I'd like to see us do the same amount that we did last year, as long as it's an appropriate time for the budget, to reflect that amount that we're looking at. So that's my input on it. I don't see anybody disagreeing with that, but it's up to y'all.
You said input and then you said a motion, so I'm just going to ask for clarity.
Well, I guess you may correct me on this, my motion would be to inform the schools that yes, there will be a donation vote coming forward in the future in our budget year that we're going to have. Probably, my suggestion to go along with the budget would be after January, which is something we could definitely discuss in the next couple of meetings as far as amount to move forward with at that time. So that would be my motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Here's another thought. I mean, I understand going with the same amount, but the additional library expense is something that we do need to take in consideration. We could compile a wish list again like we did the first year, and if there is a need necessarily, instead of giving a set dollar amount, that might be a direction that we could go. Or, like I said, I'm not opposed to lowering the dollar amount just for we can give them something with consideration of the library. My goal would be that we could continue to give this gift as long as, we could. And if we ended up, each year it's being replenished, but if with the library come in and, not knowing exactly when that's going to hit, do we have any clue on when the library money may, I know we haven't gotten the final bids in, I guess they're in, but do you know where the county is?
I don't think the final bids are in, because they were talking about, when we were discussing this, the end of October.
But there's a bid date, but it hasn't come yet.
Okay.
I was going to announce this in my comments, but I have received back the fully executed interlocal agreement where the county and the city has bound themselves to come up with the money and build it. So I haven't heard anything different in the last week or so, but they were looking at the end of October. So if they're shooting for that, maybe the middle of November or something, but they are going to notify us when the bid opening is going to be held, and you'll get a copy of the drawings and all that stuff. So I would look for the end of October.
I would like to amend the motion that we have the mayor again this year send out a letter to the schools and see what their needs are, and then we could move forward, and we'd have some time to know exactly where the library is going. And
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Yes, sir.
In general principle, I think what we've done is really good, and I'd like to see us continue it. I think we are premature in giving any indication this early in the fiscal year as to how much money we might have or how much money that we would give or anything. We have already committed, and by now by contract with the county, to pay the $91,000 of the library, which we intend to take out of this fund. While the fund, whether we have sufficient money on hand, as I see the budget cycle, we could write the check. However, because we haven't gotten to the good part of our fiscal year yet, we're going to create a cash flow issue even bigger than the one that we just are working ourselves out of if we write the check anytime soon. It's just my take on it. I don't, we can ask Tom what his take is. But, and then the other thing that weighs heavily on me is that when we first started doing this, we had a discussion about how that money was to be spent, and we had a discussion about what that money was to be spent for in terms of the school facilities tax. And part of that discussion was that it's money that's given to us that if we see an expansion in our schools, we would have money to provide some extra things. At the time, there was no discussion of that or any sort of expansion that would cause us to even consider having another school. But since that time, we started doing this, we've got major subdivisions now talking about, and if we get 500 rooftops in what was Brownland Farms, and then we get another 200 rooftops on the subdivision the Beattas are putting together, we're going to at least have to have a major expansion of one of our elementary schools, if not another elementary school, and additional maybe middle school as that progresses. So we will need a substantial amount of money to provide those little extra things, athletic facilities, maybe audiovisual equipment, computers, that sort of thing. So we've given the schools, by my count, over $150,000 that was supposed to be spent on durable goods, was computers and stuff like that, that should still be there. What we've originally given them should still be there. So when you put all of that stuff together, I don't feel good about telling them that we're going to give them anything right now. I think we ought to stay the course, wait till January. If in January, everything that we've planned and everything that looks like it's coming to pass has come to pass, we would be easily able to say we can give you X amount of money to perpetuate. But I think given those factors, I'm not comfortable in voting to make any commitment tonight for the schools. And it's not because I don't think it's a good thing to do, it's just I don't think it's fiscally sound with the path that we've charted. Thank you.
Other discussion?
I actually think you have some very valid points in your discussion, and I think that, asking, what happened is when this started, you had every school asking for money, had every different organization coming up. The discussion in budget years, we were all sitting around at a budget workshop, and it came up about what that fund was for, and it is for if there was a development or if we were going to do expansion, and that may happen in the near future, sooner than we think, especially if we do get the neighborhoods. But it is just a portion where we can still provide to the schools additional, or the county additional support. So with that being said, the ideal was they nickeled and we weren't given money to the schools. So they would have to come to us and ask for, $1,000 here, $1,000 there. And so it's one of those things where this was a great gift, and I'm fine with waiting and to see where our budget is. But I don't think it's a bad idea to have the mayor write or ask them what their needs are. Because as a board of commissioners, it would be nice to know what each school needed. And if we could find, whether it's not the city writes the check, we could help maybe use our resources to help get them what they need.
So are we
You wanna
amending the
rem- I
amendment?
mean,
The discussion? No, at this point, the amended motion is for the inquiry, and I'd be glad to do that and be honored. The other motion on the floor is to actually make statement of approval for future of same amount after January. So the amended motion is for inquiry and looking at a needs or a wish list for future conversation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Second is the motion on the floor about the motion of giving a favorable response to this request of the schools that we would be willing to fund in the future the same amount and look at it after January. That motion still stands?
Are we leaving it as fund the same amount?
Well, that was his motion, so I tried to read it, what he said. If alterations or anything,
I would withdraw that motion.
that motion has been withdrawn.
And I'll withdraw mine.
Second.
Well, I was the second, right?
Yours was second and voted upon. So I can still inquiry of their needs and wish list.
Right.
So at this point, the first of any kind of verbal or written commitment on the city's behalf to the schools has been withdrawn
That's
at this
correct.
time.
That's correct.
Thank you. Right, clear? Okay. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing that on future agendas. I do believe supporting our schools shows that our community is working not only from the littlest and then being able to support the community as a whole. So I think we started a good process, but we do need to be diligent as we process through the budget. Thank you for your comments on that. We'll move along. The H, discuss and or take action on the flag design for the city of Fairview. City Manager Hall.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Board of Commissioners. Recently received a request from one of our citizens to inquire if we had a city flag where he could display it at his Air Force reunion. I was going to get them to do that.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
Anyway, after talking to city attorney, he said that we need to get board approval.
Okay.
And that's what it's here for. It's actually a work in progress. We need your approval. The cost is very minimal, around $100, and I'm going to step up and pay for the first flag. I've already had 2 other people tonight that's willing to do so if we need them in the future. So as far as any budget amendment, we're not going to need that. So basically, we just want approval on the design and, to go forward with the city flag, which, by the way, if we had it, could be displayed tomorrow with our homecoming, so.
And where will it be posted at this time? Was your interest of posting this?
As far as the.
If you had one in your hand now, where would you be
We're going to
posting?
hang one outside.
In front of City Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there other options of posting? I know we've discussed the Veterans Memorial Park.
That would be great, and see, I'm waiting now, possibly on Walmart to get that flag stand done out there. They will possibly give us a grant for that, but I have to contact them in January.
Okay.
So,
Is there a flag posting at the Nature Center or Bowie Park also?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
We do? Okay. So at that point, we could move forward with 3
Yes,
if
ma'am.
approved, and we have 1 sponsored. So we are
We
looking.
actually have 3 sponsors.
3 sponsored. Well, there you have it. Okay. Is there any discussion on color, size, anything of that nature, or is this just a approval of what you've presented?
Like I said, we as a staff looked at it, and Ms. Brandy stepped up to the plate and got us 2 or 3 designs. This one we liked the best, and, it is a work in progress, so.
Do we have colors that we need to consider? Not sure, just asking.
The colors on this were taken from the seal, the colors on the seal. That's
Okay.
where they came from.
Now, will the flag have the lettering on it? I'm talking about a great place to live and work and the like.
Yes.
I would like to make a request, and I thought about it just before this came up tonight. I think we need larger flags. I think our flags out front are too small. If you're looking at them from the highway, they're small in comparison to what I think they should be. But I like for us to look at, when we replace them with some larger flags.
We'll look into some prices on those.
But you wouldn't want to have the city flag larger than the U.S. flag at this, okay.
No, ma'am.
All right.
They can be the same, I'm sorry, you correct me if I'm wrong, they can be the same size, they just can't be at the same level on the flagpole.
Right.
Like if you have 3 flagpoles, the United States flag flies top, and then the other 2 can fly side by side. But that's the only, as far as I know, the only restriction that we have, because I take care of the flags for the county, it's
Okay.
Sheriff's Department.
You know, I think it's, I like the flag, and it looks, cheerful and fun, but it would have been a fun project to have the kids, the local kids, maybe vote on it, give them a couple of options. I don't know how much y'all are, like, this is it, that may be the best option, but it kind of would be fun to have citizens input and, help them come up with a design. I don't know, just my opinion.
We're in no hurry. We can put it off for 30 days if like we did something else a while ago, and put it out to the schools and see what they can come up with.
Well, even if you had a couple y'all had narrowed it down to just, having a vote, or, I don't know, it's just kind of investing in their, having say.
How many options did you come up with? Okay, and I agree the citizens or the school would be a great asset, but not them coming up with anything that would be very vulnerable. So I do agree with maybe 2 or 3 ideas, and if we can incorporate them, then they, create ownership.
Okay.
When does the citizen need this for the take to the reunion?
It's passed. He was just inquiring if we had it, he would like to borrow it and take it and display it at his reunion.
I think it's a great idea. I think the flag's a great idea, and it'll be fun, and, appreciate you offering to donate, and whoever else.
Right. What I might do is the person that give us this idea, let him help in the design also.
I believe the city seal is very respectful, and it's also professional. As far as the variation of the designs of the colors or what goes on or not, I just believe the same basis as well. But to have 2 or 3, and ultimately, you've already approved or feel like they're professionally and ready to be presented by the city of Fairview. It's not asking them to draw something. But then it also includes them, and I don't think there's ever a negative when the citizens feel like they're included.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
We'll give it about 30 days and see what we can come up with.
Commissioner Bissell, I saw your hand up.
I was just going to say, this is my preference.
I like that one better as well.
Flags that have words on them, to me, that are not like part of a seal or something, are not a flag, they're a banner.
The only issue with this design that we discovered, our seal does not mention that this is the state of Tennessee. So if it is being taken.
If you wanted to put a word, you could put Tennessee across the bottom in white letters. But a black background, since the seal is white, a black background would show it off more.
That's dark green, actually, it's hard to tell up there,
But black is what I would make it. But, would show it off more, and then you could put Tennessee on there. But
So possibly an option with black, green, Tennessee written on.
it's not one of those things that I'm going to die over no matter what we do. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I don't, to me, a flag with words on it becomes a banner. And that's not what we're after. I don't, other than the identification of the city.
So you feeling okay about that?
Do we need a, do we need a motion? Because we're not, well, at this point, I would prefer you checking
Yes, ma'am.
with the schools and seeing if they would do just a quick survey and make it fun and bring it into the light of, we want your input.
Yeah.
And then bring it back to the board for the decision, and,
We'll just defer it for right now, and then I'll get with the 4 schools.
okay. Yeah, and we're not releasing it to the art and the drama to redesign it. I think it's staying professional, and the seal is a great move.
And then putting Tennessee on there, I think is a great move
Yeah.
there too.
I mean, it looks great. I mean, the first one was. I just thought it might be fun. It's, any time that we can engage the kids or the citizens and have a choice and ownership is win-win.
Let's have it at the debate, where they can vote, maybe. Is that too quick?
No.
If we were able to do a quick tally vote by picture and something, and then be able to have that where you could follow up and then bring it back when you felt you were ready to say this is presentation of the top vote getter?
Probably that night, and I will not be able to attend because of the tree board meeting. I have several items that I have to address on the tree board meeting that night. So
Put it on the website.
I,
Put it on the website. Put it on the website for
There you
voting.
go. Okay.
Well,
Great.
and another thing is the younger
On
kids.
Facebook.
Yeah, the younger kids are gonna be the ones that really get excited about it. The high school kids probably aren't gonna care as much, what the, flag looks like. I'm just speaking from experience, so.
Okay, we're good with that? A motion for deferment?
Move to defer.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. I appreciate y'all diligence on that. Look forward to having that done, and then that way we'll have one if a citizen asks in the future. Item I, discuss and or take action on tree bank ordinance. Commissioner Carroll?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring this back up. I know we already laid the tree bank ordinance to rest, but it has been brought to my attention that we have some projects going on that a slight tweak of the wording might help. And one of them is we have approved the trees to go at the high school and the donation, and it's going to be right under or close to power lines. And so it was brought to my attention, if we could just move it back just a little, the life of the trees, you know, it might be longer, or did you want to speak?
Yes.
Because we talked too.
yes, ma'am. After leaving the community garden ribbon cutting the other day, I had looked where the little yellow flags were at. They're right on the crest of that berm. The donation that's been made, they will not survive, in my opinion. Even with gator bags and they're filled up constantly, they're just not going to survive. So in my estimation, I do not like approving that kind of money that's being spent on them, and they die in 2 years.
Yeah.
It was actually suggested as a donation for Arbor Day Foundation. And I think our ordinance is being looked at in a little different light. The ordinance actually states public property within the city limits. Now, Larry has a different opinion on that. I'd like to hear it. But I just think it's a big waste of money to put them out there on that berm when I am not Mike Berkeley by no shape, form, or fashion, but I've had my share of planting trees, and I know they're not going to survive there.
Yeah.
If I can, Mr. Berkeley, we was requested to be here tonight
Can I finish my?
by me, so if you could step up just a second and answer that question, we appreciate it very much.
Good evening, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
City Manager Hall asked me to measure from that edge of the road 30 feet, and that would be our easement. And that puts it right on top of that berm, and he's absolutely right. And that's a western exposure, by the way, that's coming in and hitting that bank from the roadside. And, I mean, you don't even have to be a tree person to know that they're going to struggle there, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could go in further away from the road, you're going to have a little more moisture there to, I mean, fruit trees, we can be very selective about these fruit trees that are going there for the community garden. But even the toughest ones there on that berm would be
Thank
challenging.
Well, I just wanted to bring up, I appreciate you coming, and that was something that when I was out working at the garden, and we talked about it, I thought it was awfully close, and Mr. Cannon had mentioned it, and then I also spoke with Mr. Hall asking his opinion, and I'm not, an arborist, but I could tell that it was too close to the roads, and I worried about the livelihood. And I think we have some other projects that are coming up that just slightly changing the word to say, public property in the city, county, state, or city, county, state property within the city limits. It would open up, when we do the beautification grant, with the state medians, that we could end up, using the tree bank to help with some of those projects. So I think by a slight changing in the wording that we could end up making our town look really, really good. And by, like, I think right now it was public is property, city property is how it's written now.
Give me a
City,
second and I'll go get it highlighted.
Brandy's prepared.
I believe it says city-owned property.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It says publicly owned property, but this is not the same ordinance that I have.
Okay, I was fixing to say, the one that I looked at said the city of Fairview. But now that I may be not looking at the right one.
Let me get the one that Don presented to me, that we,
I agree with
I'll be right
Commissioner Carroll.
back.
I like to see it changed to where we can.
We officially have one ordinance, correct? And what was given to you there is not the,
It doesn't work the same way that I have it on my desk.
That was the amendment, the one that we were gonna do, brought in front of us. That is the ordinance?
That's the portion that sets up the tree bank fund. The tree bank was established, but then that's the portion that set up the fund and how the funds may be used.
Okay.
But that was never voted on.
Yes, yes, that was approved.
Let me get the one I have.
Okay.
well, I think the way the funds would be used is what our discussion is and how that wording is, because that's saying how the money can be spent, whereas the ordinance develops that we are charging for the removed trees, then that money sitting is going somewhere. So that one right there, that verbiage. So Larry, my question in clarifying in Commissioner Carroll is, does that say on city, county, or state property within the city limits? Or can it be construed as said that way? Does it say that? Can it be used that way?
Well, and another thing, I believe in the meeting where we talked about that, it was mentioned that, and maybe that's the confusion, that it could only be city property.
Mike, while he's getting that, could I ask you your opinion on, because this is going to be kind of part of it that we're looking at too, because the key word there was beautification. On the landscape issue, what is your definition of landscaping? What things can be brought into that?
No, that's a very good question, and in my own business, we run across that every day. We get phone calls into the office, I want to get some landscaping done. And then I will go and meet with the client and say, okay, what do you want done? And today, in fact, in Nashville, I met with someone that wants hardscaping. Well, that's a sidewalk, and landscaping, and then it's a sidewalk, it's hardscape. So the definition is really anything that's outside the building. Lighting, irrigation, dirt work, soil work, of course the green component, a pergola, an arbor, gazebo, an outbuilding. It's, and if you get with the landscape architects, and, we've worked with a lot of certified licensed landscape architects in the state of Tennessee, and that's pretty much the definition. It's just anything, any entity outside of the building.
Okay, thank
right
you very
down to
much.
the hardscapes.
That's just a question that came up in other meetings that we had too, but what the usage of the fund could be for, and, like I say, bushes, whatever, the lighting, whatever you're talking about outside, it can be used for too. So I just want to get your input on it, since you are the city arborist, so.
I'm a tree man.
You're city tree man, okay.
I can always excuse myself from everything by saying I'm a tree guy.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, and there's no motion on the table, so if we need to continue discussion, I mean.
I'd like to hear clarity from Mr. Cantrell, because we have an ordinance that sets up that we are going to have a tree bank, and then we have a amendment to that ordinance, which is how that money can be spent.
Right, and the amendment, as you remember, set up two separate tree bank accounts. What I've got here, I believe, Mr. Holland, correct me if I'm wrong, is we've got an ordinance which clearly says publicly owned City of Fairview property. You can't stretch that to be county, you can't stretch that to be state, you can amend it to be. Then we've got a subdivision regulation which says something different. What needs to happen is, if we're going to amend the document in the municipal code, what I would suggest is you put in there that it's publicly owned property owned by the city, state, county, federal government, because we never know what the feds might do. And then we amend the subdivision regulation so that this definition of what property it is matches the one in this ordinance that we amend here, because you've got to have them the same. Actually, if you get down to what trumps what, the municipal code would trump this. But there's no point in having it out there to create a problem. You do this one.
Agreed.
And we amend this one to say city, state, county, federal, and then you're in. And then we amend the subdivision regulation so that it's gonna trail it a little bit, because it's a longer thing. If you're gonna amend the subdivision reg, you've gotta have a public hearing, you gotta have 30-day notice of that. But it's not, it's doable. And there's no point in having something out there that's different, and they clearly are different.
And it's just gray enough to cause confusion,
Yeah.
which is unnecessary.
Right.
Question if I
Thank you.
can. Should it read public-owned property within the city limits?
Oh, yeah.
Public-owned property and easements within the city limits of Fairview?
Yeah, because,
Period.
I mean, you
It's publicly owned.
couldn't control anything outside the city limits.
Right,
of Fairview
exactly,
anyway,
but-
But you might as well go ahead and say it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we would say, property belonging to the city, state, federal government, county, that's located within the corporate boundaries of the city of Fairview.
And easements?
And easements, yeah, well,
Okay.
because they could have some easements in there.
Right.
You could say all property, whomever owned by, but that wouldn't be any problem to get the wording proper, but, if you would, send me a copy of that so I can revise it at the
So
same
do
time.
we have a motion on that?
If that's what they want, no,
No.
you can just instruct me to do it.
I'll make a motion to, I don't know if I can get it all, exactly what Larry, Mr. Cantrell said. No, make a motion that we amend the ordinance to state that it could be on public-owned property for city, county, state, and federal, and
Easements.
easements
Within
for
the city.
within the city.
Second.
We have first and second discussion,
Did I cover it all?
or do we need to clarify? Did the motion state what you feel comfortable with in the amendment?
That would be better, because I'll have to amend the subdivision regulation, present that to the planning commission, because that's their bailiwick, but there won't be any problem.
What does that affect?
It's variances for people that are building subdivisions. You know, if it requires something and then they need to vary it for some reason, physical reason, we want the same definition in that you have in this ordinance.
But the trees did not affect residential. The tree bank does not,
No, that's true.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
the tree bank does not
It doesn't affect.
address residential.
No, but
It's
you won't-
commercial.
You won't have the same definition in there, though, for what it does affect.
But should that be done as, like this, just talking about the tree bank, and then you can go back in a separate and change the
Oh, yeah, This would be a
residential?
whole separate
Yeah,
deal, we just don't want, we don't want two
Utility district,
definitions.
period.
Like the easements out there.
but you wouldn't necessarily want to do it at the same time, would you?
You wouldn't have to do
Do-
it at the same, matter of fact, you couldn't do it at the same.
Yeah, that's,
Well, you
okay.
could, but you'd have to wait a long time on those.
Is it read-
Okay.
Is it city easements or all easements?
Okay.
In the public hearing of the subdivision regs.
Would just throw something else out there. just to make sure we kind of get it all covered, would that be with city easements or all easements, and it would that also cover utility companies? I mean, do we need to put that in the pie too, or
You want to do what?
would that cover, would that cover, example, waterworks, water and sewer, gas lines, TVA?
Yeah, your tree bank would do that, because they wouldn't be residential, because they'd be doing easements.
That's what I'm saying, will that easement
Yeah.
statement in there
Yes.
cover all of that?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we didn't.
If it's TVA, they're not going to pay attention to it anyway. They'll tell you real quick, they're regulated by the Congress of the
They'll
United
spray
States. Take a walk. But we can put it in there.
Okay.
While we're in discussion, I'll just ask, do you have any comments or input on what we're discussing, sir?
No, Mayor, it's confusing. The tree commission, we've discussed this for a long time, and it is confusing. And what exactly is the ordinance on this? We're really hoping someone can come up with the rewording of this, because it is confusing. The way the tree bank is
Right.
because I don't think we knew on the board, or any of us knew, that how successful this tree bank was going to be. And it's very powerful. I want to also add that, the new flag and the potential banner or whatever, right in the very center of that is the tree. And I think that's very important on what we're talking about today, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out, appreciate it.
You brought up a concern or question. I do realize that this legislative board does have the right to vote in and out, but is this something that needs to be vetted through the tree board?
They did ask for that at the last tree board meeting, that if there were any changes made to this, that they would like to see it brought to them before it was done, or include them in the decision-making process, because they felt like they put in hours and hours setting this thing up initially. Would you agree with that, Mike?
So,
So we can amend it and send it, or take it to the tree board and let them come back.
My suggestion would be let him draw up his first phase on the ordinance and then take it
right,
forward.
that's what I was going to say. If we amend it, then it may not be the verbiage that we've discussed. It would be best to give to them for a recommendation or editing, in them being able to make a full recommendation for us to have vote. Great.
You could refer it to them between the first reading and the second reading.
Okay.
There's nothing says your second reading has got to be, the very next board meeting. And if it doesn't substantially change the ordinance, then you don't have to go back to first reading. It's fully amendable between first and second readings, as long as it doesn't change the scope and the meaning of the ordinance.
So was there a motion made?
Yes.
Amendment for the draft to be sent to the tree board for review and approval for recommendation?
That's fine if that's what the board wants, or you could.
I'd like to get the board to get one and let the tree board have one also, just for them
Okay.
to do an overview on it.
So the draft will be presented, and that's the amendment, is to let them see the draft before it's final.
Yeah, if it doesn't upset the board, I would prefer to send it to Ms. Brandy and to city manager, and then let them forward it to the tree board, because then I'm going through one central source.
Okay. All good with the amendment? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The first motion is for the revision. The amendment that would be stating all public-owned property within the city limits, city, county, state, and easements.
And just for clarity, for him to move forward with
Right.
drawing up the ordinance.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I think that was great collaboration and discussion. Last one on the agenda is J, discuss and or take action of the overcharge of fees to commercial development. I didn't write that specific. Cantrell?
I think each member of the board has a copy of the amount of the overcharges and the amount of days that those incorrectly charged fees have been in the possession of the city. I'm going to go over these individually, and I'll try to make it as short as possible because it's pretty well self-explanatory. It's not self-explanatory as to how this happened. What happened was the 50-cent commercial or non-residential adequate facilities tax was raised, not by the board, but was raised to 75 cents and was charged to 4 entities who built buildings in this city. I'll list the amounts that was charged, the amounts that should have been charged, and what the overpayments are, how many days, and who they are. The first one was Alpha Technologies, who paid $16,783.25 on June 6, 2014. They should have paid $11,415.30. That's an overpayment of $5,457.95. The city has had those funds for 118 days. Taco Bell paid $1,961.75 on March 1st, 2014. They should have paid $1,474.50. That's an overpayment amount of $487.25, and the city has had those funds for 215 days. Walmart paid $90,244.25 on February 12th, 2013. They should have paid $60,329.50 for an overpayment amount of $29,914.75. The city has had those funds for 596 days. Commercial industrial building, and someone may have to help me with that. Is that the name of a building, or is that?
I'm confused on who it is actually myself. Does anyone, Brandon, do you have any information on who that is?
The address was 7107 Juniper Road. It was Jim Construction.
Okay, they paid $3,120.
It's Alpha Technology.
What's that one?
No, Alpha's been,
Well, Alpha's already been there.
yeah.
But they paid $3,125 on September 13th, 2013. They should have paid $2,220 for an overpayment of $875, and the city's had those fees for 382 days. Ms. Brandy checked with the bank, our bank, and they said the average interest rate during that time for loans was 7%. The overpayment of the funds, we did check, all the funds was put in the bank. There's nothing, any indication that anything was done with those funds other than put them where they should be. What I would propose to the board, I think the only right thing to do is return those funds to the people that paid them with the interest rate for the number of days that the city has kept that money. What I did was figure it through today, and obviously we can't get it back to them today, but that would result in a repayment to Alpha Technologies of $5,581.61. That's their $54.57 overpayment plus the interest of $123.66. Repayment to Taco Bell of $507.36, representing $487.25, which they paid, plus $20.11 interest. Repayment due to Walmart of $29,914.75 plus interest of $34.2320 for a total of $33,337.95. Repayment on the commercial industrial building of their $875 plus $64.18 interest for a total of $939.18. The bottom line totals would be the total amount overpaid by everybody is $36,734.95. The total amount due with interest as of 10/2 is $40,366.10. The total interest earned would be $3,631.15. I would not have, and I want to inform the board of this, I would not have been doing my job if I hadn't recommended to the city manager that we report this to TML to see if there's any insurance coverage for this. I did not think that there would be. They have an exclusion in their policy for mistakes made for collecting taxes. And I think I could have won that one because I don't think this is a tax, it's a fee. But the one that I could not win was unjust enrichment. That's an equity defense. The city collected all the money, and had we paid them back and the insurance company reimburses, we would have in essence been getting all the interest and the principal, just as if the ordinance had been properly amended and had been collected properly. So what I would like for the board to do is authorize the city manager to set up a meeting with representatives from these 4 entities, and we work out some type of, as of this day, you will be repaid your money, which will result in a loss to the city of the interest paid on these collections that was mistakenly collected. The principal money that will go back to them, the $33,337.95 would have been collected and would not be a loss to the city. It's in our account. The only thing that we would be out would be the interest, and I don't see any way that you have to do what's right. There was a mistake made. The way you correct it is pay them back their money with interest and get a release from them and go on.
What is the address of Alpha Technologies?
$7121 Lob Lolly Pine Boulevard.
Loblolly. Okay. Comments or questions?
How was this discovered?
I got a telephone call from Mr. Hall.
How it was reported to me, John Bledsoe wanted to know when did this rate go up to Sharon. And she said some time ago. And who changed it? From what I understand, the former codes director changed it in her computer that day when this came up. So she's been charging those fees to commercial development.
He just changed it to an ambiguous figure here.
Yes, that's what I've been told. I wasn't there, but everything Sharon's always told me has been right on. So she has a bond that we retrieved today. She actually caught it within the first time, within a week of expiring. So she's been very diligent on everything that I've asked her to take care of, watching the bonds and everything before Frank came on. So she's doing her job, and so John Bledsoe's doing his because he didn't realize that the fee had gone up. So that's what it was reported to me.
This, just for clarification, for his behalf, it was just the former director?
Yes, sir.
When I got the call from Mr. Hall, I said, I don't remember that having been amended. I don't remember amending it. And I go look, and I hadn't. And I says, well, we've been charging 25 cents extra per square foot for whatever time that's been changed. And they went back and researched and found these 4 people were involved, or 4 entities were involved.
As y'all found out earlier, it is y'all's decision to make those changes. As far as
only amend an ordinance with an ordinance.
Yes.
You made the comment, we have the money.
Yes, ma'am, they collected the money and it was paid, and it's been verified per Mr. Hall that the rates, the incorrect rates were charged, the money was collected and deposited in the bank account. The only thing that was not, obviously, the interest wasn't collected.
Which is
That's
$3,631.15.
as of today.
only because you made that comment, I wanted to highlight and ask Mr. Daugherty, when you write these checks, you have that money?
Yes, ma'am.
Will that come out of the facility tax? Where, or just a portion of the money goes in? I think I heard a formula one time.
I believe on these, it is out of facilities tax. I'll have to double check, but I believe it comes straight out of facilities tax.
If I can, I'd like to make a motion when we move forward with this plan to refund these overcharges.
And we want to have that meeting as soon as possible, because the quicker we can have the meeting, the quicker we can stop paying interest.
That would be part of my motion for City Manager Hall and our CFO to get together with that and get it resolved as soon as possible.
How many days?
30 days.
Is this interest on a daily
Yes, ma'am.
per diem?
Yes, ma'am. I figured it was 7% per annum, and I broke it down to per day.
I'd like to amend the motion that it be within 7 days.
I'll second the amendment.
Thank you. Discussion?
I would also like to add that I ran my calculations by the CFO, and he agreed with them. It's not, you know, it's not Einstein math, but when you're doing this, I just like to have somebody look over them and, you know, verify them, because being human, you make mistakes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the amendment of the 7 days?
Aye.
Any opposed? Original motion is to have the city manager move forward with the CFO in the return of the incorrected collected fees. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. City manager, items for discussion?
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Commissioners. I would just like to promote yesterday, one thing that I really liked that came out of it was identifying our businesses that had been here for years. I know we have some big box businesses here now, but our small businesses has been the backbone of our community for years. I actually visited 2 yesterday. I haven't had time today, but I will continue to visit and thank them. One of them, I actually had my key on. He said, "City Manager, what's your name?" I said, "Wayne Hall." She said, "We've seen you in here before, but we didn't know who you were." So this is going to be a project of mine to visit our businesses and let them know that we thank them for being here and that we do support them. They support us, and I want them to know that. So that's my comment tonight. I do ask for permission on something before I authorize it to be done. I have been contacted by Channel 17. They want permission to film a commercial courtroom scene that will take somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes. Checking with Mr. Cantrell, he said I needed to probably run that by y'all. They do have their own liability policy, and that is one thing that we are watching very close from here on out, is making sure that all liability policies on any event is in place before we authorize anything. So before I call them back, I really wanted to run that by y'all and see if I have y'all's permission to allow them about from 1 o'clock Monday or Tuesday afternoon to no later than 2. It won't interfere with anything we have going on, and you know, it's just more or less public service, I guess, to you know, to one of our news suppliers.
This is going to require any police department, anybody like that, judge, whatever.
No, sir, it's a commercial with what they're filming. And,
I don't.
that's what it's been explained to me, but they just needed a courtroom to do so.
I don't know
No
if it needs
political agenda or
it needs a
anything of that
motion.
nature.
I don't think it needs a motion, does it, Larry, just to
Yeah, just your
board approve? I have no problem with it at all.
Yeah, I mean, you checked into it, you think it's good. I'm good with it.
I've questioned them real good, and if I see anything wrong with it, I'll ask them to leave. I will be here when it's being done, watching over it.
I would say you being present would be
Yes, ma'am.
very vital of,
Yeah.
trustworthy and intent and such, and
I don't want anything to portray our city in a negative light. That's my only.
I agree 100%.
any other commission comments on the subject? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other staff comments tonight?
I might add, let me go back. As y'all well know, we've been working on a city manager's report. That will be, actually, rather than a verbal presentation, it's going to be a written presentation to y'all at the second meeting of each month. And so therefore, I doubt if we have any comments tonight. What we'll do is we're going to get it a hard copy to y'all in your packet. And if there's any question after y'all go over it, we'll have the directors here or the staff here that you need to talk to. And if you have any questions at that point, once y'all view it, and then after that, the next morning, it will go to our website each month. So it gives you an outline of what each division's doing and what from fire department to the Parks Department, Public Works, Tom's department, Brandy's department, my department. We're going to give you the whole month's preview of what we've done to that month. It's so that's the reason probably tonight that we have no staff comments, since Keith has done told you all the festivities that's going on in the park.
Okay. So if there be no other staff comments, speak now or forever hold your peace. City attorney comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got about 4 items I need to cover tonight, and I'll try to keep them brief. The mayor had asked me to comment on some statutes and some laws with the election coming up, so that we don't have people getting into problems with the way they conduct, and I'm trying to tell you how to conduct your campaign, but I don't want you to get into something that needs to be mentioned. If anyone, I'm going to keep this brief, and I'm not going to try to cover every intricate nuance of the statute, but just to lay out some general stuff. And if anyone has any questions about their specific situation, or if they get elected to the board, they can see me individually. I'll be glad to go into whatever amount of detail you feel like you need to go into. The basic statutes that I want to cover, the first ones from Tennessee Code annotated would be 12-4-101, 6-54-107, and 7-51-1501. 6-54-107 deals with people who are on the legislative board who might want to do some work for the city. I could tell you, if you're the person who has a company and you want to get a contract with the city, then you either need to, I'm not trying to be funny, but you either need to be a contractor, or you need to be a member of the board, because that's a direct interest and it's verboten conduct. There are some things in there, though, that don't line up with 12-4-101, mainly 6-51-107. I'm sorry, is that 107?
Can I ask you to speak into the microphone?
Sure.
You're crossing the mic and then hiding your faces.
Yeah. 6-54-107 talks about direct interest and indirect interest, and has some language you can quote if you have a conflict and still go on if you're a member of the board and vote on that. Unfortunately, 654 in one of the last sections says that if it has a conflict with 12-4-101, 12-4-101 is controlling. And 12-4-101 says if you have a direct conflict or a direct interest in something, you cannot vote. If it's an indirect interest, you can, but you've got to disclose it. Section 6 statute doesn't worry about as much about indirect interest about the disclosure, but since it has to yield to 12-4-101, I would suggest that you do that. 751-1501 cures a lot of problems that you would have if it wasn't there. That statute section gives people who are employees the same rights as any citizen of the community to participate in political activity without fear of being terminated for doing that. It does have some requirements that are very important. Number one, you can't participate in that political activity at the same time you're being paid by the city to work. Number two, if you participate in the activity, in other words, you can't be forced not to campaign for your friend that's running for something. You can't give that campaign while you're supposed to be working, nor can you, if you have a uniform of the city, if you're off from work, you can campaign for them all you want, but you can't do it in your uniform. That violates, that statute also violates Hatch Act. That's a federal act, and I'll cover that in just a moment. But the only thing you can, if you're a member of this legislative board, you can run for state senator, you can run for governor, you can run for president of the United States, but you can't run for this board. That's the only requirement in that statute that precludes you out of what the normal citizen can do. You can run for any board you want to run for, but you can't run for this board. Only if it's in the charter, and our charter doesn't include that, or if there's an ordinance. And probably that would be up to you, but I don't think the ordinance would be well taken, because it would create so many problems for the members of the board. What part of the budget you could vote on, this type of thing. Maybe not vote on the overall budget at all. And the last two that I have is you have the Federal Hatch Act, and you have what's called the Little Hatch Act, which is the Tennessee version. You don't see that as much as you used to, but simply because most of the things that it prohibits, you can't do for some other reasons, but it prohibits you from using your political influence to sway people that work for you to vote for someone else. The Little Hatch Act is the state version of it. It precludes the same thing, and one of the things that can get you in some real trouble, and people do it all the time, and to be quite honest with you, I've never heard anybody being prosecuted for it, but the act prohibits it. You can't, like was telling me, you can't wear your uniform, and if you do, you're subject to be removed from office. You can actually be prosecuted under the federal statute. But the one thing that I don't see people get prosecuted for, and technically violates the act, it's kind of penny ante, but if you are running, if someone else is running and you're going to support that individual, technically under the statute, you can be introduced as Stuart L. Johnson, but you can't be introduced as Commissioner Stuart L. Johnson. And people do it all the time. Some of it is inadvertent, and some of it is, I think, they just don't really know. And I think that's the reason that probably you don't get prosecuted or hear anybody getting prosecuted for that particular thing, because it sounds like such an innocent type of thing. You know, this is Commissioner such and such. But, and you can't, now if you're running for your own office, you're campaigning for yourself, and you're an incumbent, you can introduce yourself as commissioner or whatever, but not if you're, Commissioner Carroll couldn't speak on behalf of Commissioner Bussell and be introduced as Commissioner Carroll. And that basically is a thumbnail sketch of what those statutes require, and I'll be the first to say that it's much more involved than that. But if anyone has any questions and it relates to them or what they're doing, I'll be happy to talk with you. Today, City Manager Wayne Hall and Mr. Humber and myself journeyed up to Portland, Tennessee. We had a letter of credit on the Walmart spoils site that was to expire tonight at 12:01 a.m. I didn't think there'd be anybody at the bank at 12:01 a.m., and if we were up there in the bank at 12:01 a.m., we'd probably be in a lot of trouble. So we decided to go up today and call the letter. And we got up there around 10 o'clock, just wanted the board to know what happened. There was really two actions they could take. We had all the evidence that we needed to show that the person supposed to be doing this work had breached his contract and had little to no hope of finishing it by 12:01 tonight. So we took the letter up and all our supporting evidence and met with the bank officer. And he had two actions he could take. One was he could set up a draft account for the city. And as we got the work done, we presented a draft and they presented it to the bank and they would honor it. And he said, I don't really think I need to do that. Why don't I just get the cashier's check for the $68,000 and they're through with it. So we got the check and came back, turned it over to the CFO, and I hope he still got it. But after that, I was out of the office and some other things this afternoon, and city manager informed me when I got back that someone from the people that got the letter of credit had called my office. I wasn't there. Then I think, didn't somebody come up this afternoon? Oh, okay. And the guy that he's had this thing for, I know, at least 18 months, because the first original letter of credit was 12 months, and then he extended that for 6 months. And what I'm concerned about, and I think Mr. Hall and Mr. Humber are too, that's been through 2 rainy seasons, and that site up there is in no way stable. That's not me talking, I'm not a civil engineer, that's what Will told me. And we're of the opinion that, well, he never did bring any renewal down or seek to introduce anything, did he?
No, so they just wanted to know if they could do it, and since we'd already called it, I advised them to call you.
And I think the better course of action, the man's had 18 months to get it done, and he hasn't got it done. I think the better course of action is for us as the city to get somebody to get the job done and get it finished before TDEC comes down on us, because Mr. Hall informed me this afternoon that there's silt and rock in the creek that goes through the park. And we're gonna have to take care of that, and gonna take care of it real quickly. But I don't think city employees on property that belongs to the city, that's fine. But we shouldn't be up there working as city employees on that. That's what we've got the letter of credit for. That's the reason we got the funds. We need to get somebody to go out there and get it stabilized, because it's already been through 2 rainy seasons, and I'm not sure if it sits out there on another one, we might end up in trouble with TDEC, and we don't need to do that. We didn't create the problem. And the man didn't bring anything down to introduce it. I don't know if TDEC would accept that, wouldn't want to ask him when he's had that long to do something with it and hadn't done it. So what I would propose to do, we recommend that we go ahead and get someone else. We'll have a meeting as soon as possible, hopefully next week, with TDEC, so that they can say what they will accept. We use their standard. I'm not going to go out there and spend our money and then have TDEC say, no, we're not going to accept that. So that's the reason that we went up there and we came back with our money. Bank was very nice. I don't have anything, and we don't have anything for or against the other person. He just breached his contract. When you breach a contract, you get somebody to do it, it'll get the job done. And let's see, I had said earlier that I had the fully executed interlocal agreement from the county, between the county and the city, to build the library, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Brandy. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a
Comments, questions?
What property was this that y'all had to?
This is what's known as the Walmart spoils property. It was the property, that was the dirt that was graded out for the
Right by
construction of
Walmart.
Walmart and deposited, I assume, in a hollow or someplace on some property that Walmart doesn't own. But it was a grading, they had to have a permit, and meant they had to post either a performance bond or a letter of credit. They posted a letter of credit, ran for 12 months. If you go look at the property, there's no way it's stable. It looks like a moon site. I mean, there's very little vegetation on it. There's ditches that have eroded and are fairly deep. They've got some culverts in places where Will said they never should have been. So we think we'd be better off to get somebody else to do it.
Other comments or questions? Staff?
I'd just like to add that TDEC will direct us what needs to be done to stabilize the property. We've already contacted TDEC.
Communication from the commissioners? Commissioner Sutton?
A couple of things. I talked to you earlier about if it's okay to introduce the two candidates that are here tonight. If we have three candidates all together, would y'all like to step up and just give us a real brief synopsis on who you are and what you're running for? And we try to give everybody that opportunity, so.
Sure. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Shannon Crutcher. Before I say anything about me, let me just preface what I'm going to say by saying that we have three excellent candidates for the Board of Commissioners. I'm a Fairview native, come from a working class family, grew up over in the New Hope community. My grandmother and grandfather, James and Barbara Light, owned a florist, one of the first flower shops rather, in Fairview that I know of. I'm a 1993 graduate of Fairview High School, Go Jackets. I received my bachelor's degree from Trevecca Nazarene University in Management and Human Relations. The following year, I went to law school at Nashville School of Law. While in law school, I worked full-time, went to law school at night, paid for my education by working full-time. I really went crazy the second year and decided that I was going to go back to Trevecca. At the same time, I was in law school and got my master's in business administration. Graduated with that as well. In 2009, I graduated from Nashville School of Law, took the bar exam that July and passed, thankfully, the most stressful experience of my life. And I did that all while being a single father as well. So spent a lot of time in school and unfortunately away from my son. I have a 10-year-old son, he'll be 10 Saturday, named Ashton, goes to Westwood Elementary. I'm a small business owner, started a solo law practice in January of this year. I'm running for commissioner because I have reached a point in my career, after all of that busyness that I just talked about, where that I feel like that I have an opportunity to give back to my community. And that's something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm there now to where I can do that. I love my hometown. I'm excited about the future of Fairview and where we're headed. And I hope to be the newest commissioner on November the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mayor, Commissioners, city officials. My name is Jeff Menger. Also like Shannon, I've been out in Fairview almost all my entire life. We moved back here when I was 3. My dad was in the Air Force, and I was actually born in Texas, but he's a Fairview native. My grandparents were Dole and Eunice Mangrum. They lived on Highway 100, right next to the property where the Walmart just got put in there. I graduated from Fairview High School in 1991. From that point on, I went to David Lipscomb University and got a bachelor's degree in biology and chemistry. Then decided to go back to nursing school, went back to Columbia State and got my associate's degree in nursing. Then started working at Vanderbilt Hospital and the trauma unit as a bedside nurse, and became a charge nurse at that unit. And then worked my way up to the administrative coordinator in the adult hospital, which basically was the nursing supervisor for the adult hospital at Vanderbilt. I currently working as administrative coordinator in the emergency preparedness department, working with things like Ebola. It's been a topic. Actually, I was at a conference last week with Senator Alexander. He came for a visit at the hospital. Went back to the University of St. Francis, got my master's in healthcare administration since I maintain an administrative role at the hospital. I currently have a 14-year-old son that's a freshman on the football team out here. I have a 2-year-old daughter that goes to preschool at First Baptist Church. And the main reason I'm running for city commissioner is those 2 kids, I want them to have the same environment that I enjoyed and grew up as a kid out here in Fairview. Everything I owe in my life comes back to this Fairview. All of my ties, family, have lived out here for multiple years. on my mom and dad's side of the family have grown up out here. And it's just a great place to call home, and I want that same kind of future for my kids as well. And I think what we're doing, we're going in the right direction. I can remember when Fairview was just a couple of gas stations and a couple of used car lots and one grocery store out here, and I look around now where we are, and it's a huge improvement. We have a lot of resources out here. I know my wife gets a little frustrated because she don't get to go to Franklin anymore because a lot of stuff is out here in Fairview now. She don't get that drive time, which is really a good plus to have out here. And I just love being in this community, and with the Bowie Nature Park, it's a great asset to have. I can remember as a kid actually going back and hunting in that property. And that was, a real pleasure going hunting and fishing in that area. And then now to see what it is now, and so I can take my kids there to enjoy that, it's really important to me. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just to finish my comments, if I can, I want to thank our CFO, the entire department of the city working with the audit. I think you did a fantastic job. As we knew months and months and months ago when we had the massive changes that we did in administrative department with this city, that we were going to have problems, we were going to have to make adjustments, we were going to have to make changes. I think y'all have done that in a great way, in a positive way for us to move forward. So I just want to tell you thank you very much for everybody in each and every department. My last thing tonight may sound a little bit corny, but Saturday will be my 46th anniversary to my wife, Cheryl. And I just want to let her know that I love her as much today as I did in 1965. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
Commissioner Bissell?
No, ma'am, nothing.
Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I know that we may not always be able to give the gift to the school, but I think we always do need to consider it, and if we can find the money, try to keep giving. It is important. The library has thrown a little kinker, and we do need to plan for the future, and so we need to be continually talking with the schools and watching our numbers and working closely with Dr. Looney and making sure if we are going to be building, that we do reserve some money to go for the future. So with that being said, I just wanted to kind of give you the thought process of what I was thinking. I do love the fact that we are one of the few counties that give to our schools. And those kind of gifts. And we did get a lot of attention over it, and I think it proved to the county that we wanted to invest in our own schools, and I kind of like that. So I would like us to keep moving forward. Now, I do know that the very reason this did not come up during budget talks was because we knew there was going to be some cash flow issues. And with that being said, I did want to get it back on the center of our attention, maybe to discuss what the future will look like as far as these gifts. Also, quick statement, I just really, really appreciate the staff. I mean, I know I said it earlier, but I know this first audit, y'all are gonna, Tom and Mr. Hall, and I'm sure Brandy had, all the staff department heads had to have an important part. But thank you. I know you came into this situation, and it was, not an easy one because the money just wasn't there, and you've kind of cleaned things up, and I appreciate that, and it's very clear and easy to read, and I brag about that often, and I just continue the work. And one thing I did want to bring up is there's things that we can do right now instead of waiting for the software, which I know that we're going to get the video and we can look at in different options that are available. But there's things right now we can do to be transparent, and I'd like us to do that. I mean, there's no reason we can't go ahead and post our minutes and as quickly as possible. There's things that are audit As soon as we get it back, we can post it. We do have means of just using resources, like the mayor said, like the website and our taping of the meetings. So I just encourage the city staff to make that a priority. It seems to be a hot topic, and that would be one thing that we could do to go ahead and move forward. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. I have a few things. I'll be quick. I believe that our staff and city manager will be excited to hear. I just opened this envelope that says the request for time extension on small cities funding for the City of Fairview Street Resurfacing Project. Dear Mayor Toddy, thank you for your letter dated September 9th, 2014 regarding the above referenced project. In your letter, you requested that TDOT extend the obligation deadline of your local surface transportation program. We are pleased to inform you that TDOT has approved your request. The deadline for getting your remaining STP funds are obligated December 31st and can no longer be extended past that date. This is a letter from Ms. Whitney Sullivan, so I'll share that with you. I'm sure you have a perfect file ready to go to the next step on that. Congratulations on that for all of us. Also, I have one thank you to the First Lady, Ms. Haslam, that visited with the City of Fairview on a long, hard project. It's going to be something that is going to be a model. She expressed that they were looking for places that are moving forward in a community garden. We successfully did the ribbon cutting at the Fairview High School where the garden is existing. It is there for the students throughout the school year for education purposes as well as for food. And then they'll also be asking for master gardeners and participants, volunteers, to maintain the garden throughout the summer. So I just wanted everyone to know that we had great statewide exposure with the First Lady, Ms. Haslam. She was very honored and she was very impressed with not only the delivery, the reception. Our JROTC met and guided the guest into the event, and it was breathtaking, stunning that our young people made such a great representation. I've already personally thanked them and wanted them to know how proud we are of them and just their ability to step forward and be the leaders that we know they are. And again, the community garden is at Fairview High School. They would be delighted to show it off. One of the things is we do have a handicap accessible garden, which is rare, and Ms. Haslam did speak of that, saying that we were very creative and we used our resources and was very innovative in our community garden. So thank you to everyone who put their hands, hearts to the plow, pun intended, and the opportunities that lie ahead, and hopefully the volunteers will step forward to take care of it through the summer months. Someone at the, Miss Julie Oyer, Dr. Julie Oyer at the high school would be glad to help, and of course the FFA, the agricultural teacher, would be glad to assist as well. If you have interest there, please call the school. And the last thing, I guess I'm going to say it's a plea. One of our citizens came up with an ingenious idea of being a little forthcoming and being creative with maybe what we have called a cash flow issue. And her statement a couple weeks ago, she sat right back there and she says, what if we just asked the people to pay their taxes as soon as possible? I thought it was an ingenious, simplistic idea. So tonight I'm making a plea to the citizens of Fairview that I do know that you've received, or I have received, my tax bills in the mail this week, that if it is an opportunity for you to pay as soon as possible, the city as a whole will benefit from that effort. So I do ask you to take care of that as soon as possible, and I thank you in advance. And the last thing that I'll say is that we have had a comment tonight about delinquent taxes. There are situations that are not able to be helped. But I will also make a plea to the citizens of the city of Fairview that if there are delinquent taxes that are expected, that the city of Fairview does run its services and its benefits and all of the staff and all of the things that you call home and you call your community through these tax bases. That is the revenue that runs the city of Fairview. So if you do have ability to take care of any and all delinquent taxes, again, I would make a plea to you to do so as soon as possible. So with that statement, I'll ask for an adjournment. A motion for adjourn? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. Thank you for your attention.